Today we'll discuss about the why odata, why we have to use odata, why odata is coming into the picture, and remaining things, basics of OOPs and basics of abstract class, because these are the things we require for the prerequisite to learn odata. If you don't understand the concept of abstract class, we are not able to understand the odata concept because uh, while we writing the code in the OData services, every method is an abstract class. We have to redefine what is abstract class and how we are going to redefine how it will act. If you don't know this, so there is no point to learn OData in the practical part. So that's the reason. First, I will take the OData introduction. After that, I will take basics of hoops and abstract class. After that, so I will start with the how I can create a basic project in the OData services. I hope it will clear. So let me explain what is OData. OData stands for the original data protocol. Many people have perception that OData is a SAP tool. So so maybe you are mistaken. This OData tool is not by the SAP. So, firstly, it was developed by the Oasis in 2014. And firstly, when they introduced OData 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and later, when the Microsoft acquired and they are introduced with the OData 4.0. And now when it comes to the other technologies, we have Java, Python, they are also using to maintain the database from their management systems. So this is a little introduction about the OData. So if you are using OData, what you are creating? You are creating a REST API. Firstly, we have to know what is REST API. REST is nothing but representational state transfer is also known as stateless protocol. Firstly, we have to know what is API, application programming interface. So to understand this application programming interface, I will explain this API with an example. So let me show you one picture. So this
Harsha, OData means open data protocol or original data?
open data protocol.
It was written original data protocol
Yeah,
something.
it was mistaken. Sorry.
Okay.
So let me make you understand with the API part. So we have two persons. That person is one is the end user and one is the backend system, which is server. Let me understand. If you go a restaurant, we have customer. We are the customers. We are the end users. We are making an order through the waiter. So waiter will take the request from customers. That means ours. Waiter will take the what is the order we are giving. So waiter will take the this request and again waiter will send this request to the chef in the kitchen. So again they are going to send back the response to the customer. This is the continuous process which API is following. So in the same way, which we have two things in the OData services, that is stateful and the stateless. So I will show you. What is stateful? So to practice SAP, we have separate GUIs. So in that, let's say if you are logging into the SAP GUI, you are if you are not using it in sometimes it is going to disconnect it. Okay, it is going to disconnect it because when you open it, so it will occupy some memory space. Whenever that memory space is filled, so it is going to disconnect and again we have to reconnect again. This is the one of the Drawback of SAP GUI. So that means we called as a stateful. So when we come to the stateless concept, so as I mentioned in the concept of API, so it is the web browser. Whenever the user sends the request from the browser to the server, okay, we whatever the application we are building, and again they send the request to the server. Okay, and again whatever the request we are sending, it and again it will send the response to the browser. So it is a continuous process. There is no memory space occupied in this process. So SAP is slowly moving to the cloud. So web browser application. This is the understanding of web browser and the web server. So OData, we have response headers, status codes, the HTTP methods. So it will allow the PDFs, it will allow the PDFs, it will allow the notepad files, it will have some conversion of data. So we have payloads, everything. It is like how we will write the code in the ABAP. Similarly, we also writing the code in the OData services also. There is no change in that. Let's say I have build an application, whether it will be the mobile application or web browser application, whether it will be access to the laptop application. Whatever the application we are made, so that should be available to everyone. So it should not meant for the separate category. If I create an application, make sure that my application should be access everyone. So once the CEO of the Google said, if you create an application and make it available to everyone, okay, your application is not meant for one particular sector or one particular device. Once you make the application, you have to make the application to the use of everyone. So in the if you see the front end framework, so this is the tool for SAP UI5. That is the BAS tool, Business Application Studio, in which you have, if you execute it, so we have provision to select the type of the layout. What is the application? Let's say I have built a mobile application. If you want to see how your application should be visible in the mobile, you can see in this framework also. If you want to see your application in the tablet, you can see in the demo part also. If you want to see your application in the laptop, how the application should build, if you want to check that, you can also check that in the SAP UI file. This is the front end framework which we can see. So this is the one of the advantage. Let's say I have built an application, my dear. So I want to check how this application should exist in the mobile. You can check here in the layout itself how my application is built in the mobile. I can easily check the type of the layout and the where exactly the UI elements are there in my application. This is also one of the advantage which we have. And let's say I have built a report. I want to bind that report to the front end. Okay. So let's say I have developed a report. I want to show in the front end part. So directly I cannot send that report to the front end part. There is no connection between front end and the back end. So in order to make the connection between front end and back end, we have OData. So how it will act means we have a URL for that. URL means Uniform Resource Locator. So if you have URL for any website, you can have access for the entire information is available in the particular website. Let's say I have Geeks for Geeks website URL. If you have that URL, You can simply go through the URL, whatever the data, whatever the information is available in the particular that URL, you can read and you can grab the information. Similarly, when we create OData services, it is generating one URL for me. So that URL we have to pass in the front end part. So whatever the data is containing in the service, OData service, directly it matched to the front end part. Through the URL only, you are having an access to the entire data, whatever the queries and whatever the logic we are writing inside our OData service. So this is the point which you have to make it done. Why OData is coming into the picture? The answer is to make the relationship between front end and the back end. And simply we can say it acts as a bridge between front end and the back end part. If you build a smart form, you want to bind that smart form into the front end part, you have to use the OData. So this is compulsory, which you have to learn. If you want to bind the data from the front end, also you have to use OData. If you want to, when you are working with the CDS, also you are willing to bind the data with the OData. So everywhere it is what we can call demand scale. We can have if you have OData, you will have very good demand also. So after that, we'll continue. So Microsoft will provide a demo tool for practicing basic URLs. So if you don't have SAP GUI, at least you should have to aware what is the demo tool which is given by the SAP. So I will show you in the browser itself how it will act. Okay. So let me copy paste it. So this is the demo URL, demo system which is given by the Microsoft, uh, in which you can practice these things, the basic URLs. If you have the and if you want to see the entire information, you can see that in the metadata. So metadata means it will give the complete information. So this is the demo. This is the demo tool which is given by the SAP. So if you want to practice these things, you can, if you don't have an GUI, you can practice these things. You can practice with this tool. So, so instead of explaining the things in the theoretical manner, so even though you would have theoretical knowledge, that's good to have. So the practical knowledge is more important than having theoretical knowledge. If I make you to the understand with the practical, so that should be better one, I think. So let me connect with my system. Give me 2 minutes. I will connect with my system. I will teach you basics of whoops and abstract class. After that, we'll create a basic project in the OData services. To see the basic understanding of OOPS. So everywhere you heard about the OOPS concepts. So OOPS should be recommended, why we have to use OOPS, and we have different functionalities like data hiding, encapsulation, inheritance, interfaces, abstracts, friends class. We have so many properties and so many functionalities in the OOPS concepts. It is also reusability. The main advantage is data hiding. If you want to let's say you are building an application which you want to hide the user credentials. So in that case, you have to use the OOPS concept. We have to make that credentials in the private method so that we can nobody else going to access my sensitive information. So these kinds of things we can do in the OOPS concept. So basically, we have four different types of classes. We have usual ABAP class, exception class, persistence class, unit testing class. So, and again, we have two different types of classes. One is local class, another is global class. Global class is a class which we can create in the SC38, and we can move to the local class to the global class also. We cannot reuse that local class in my another program. Okay, global class is a class where we can define and implement in SC24. You can use it in the anywhere. So this is the basic difference between uh, what we can call local class and the global class. So this is where we can build our global classes. So just we will explain the basics. Jet HR demo. Okay, just create. Click on the create button. So it will ask you what you want to create. You want to create a class. You want to create an interface. I want to create a class. Okay, class is a collection of objects. So it will be the properties and the method. It is a collection of objects. So just give the description. Demo class. Okay, I want to make this class as public. So if the class is final, you cannot create subclasses from that. Okay, if you want to create subclasses from your class, you have to untick the final. Okay, if you want to create the subclasses from the parent class, so definitely you have to untick the final. If the class is final, you cannot create subclasses. So just untick it, just save it. So this is the screen which you are seeing. This is the definition of a screen. Sorry, definition of a class, where we can define what is our method name, how the method visibility, and the level of the method, and in the parameters of the method, whether it will be the importing or exporting parameters. So these things under the definition of a part. The implementation part, where we can write our code part, is the implementation part. Just what we can call, just give the one method name. So that method name is your wish. So if you click on the level, if you press on F4, we have static method and the instance method. So instance method, it's a dependent object. So it is not independent, it is a dependent on object. Static method, so it is an independent. So there is no need to create an object for the static method. If you want to go with the static, you no need to create an object for that. So if you want to go to the instance method, you have to compulsory create an object. It is a dependent on object. This is the difference between static and as of now, I will go with the instance method. So if you click on the visibility and press F4, we have public. So public, private, and the protected. What are these methods? So how your method can be accessed? This is the visibility. So public means you can access with the any class and the subclasses and the methods also. Outside of the class also. You can access with the subclasses, you can access with the outside of the class also if your method lies in the public visibility. If your method lies in the protected visibility, you cannot use that protected class or that protected method in the outside of the class. So you can only access within the class and the subclass. So if your method as a private, you cannot use that private method in the subclasses also. You cannot use private method outside of class also. So this is the difference between public, private, and protected. As of now, I will give the public. Okay. If you want to take any parameters for your methods like input and the output parameters, so if you click on this parameter, you will have the uh, parameter screen is open. So we have four different types of parameters, that is importing parameter, exporting parameter, changing parameter, returning parameter. Importing parameter acts like an input, like parameters are the select options. Exporting parameters is like an internal table. So changing is also act as exporting, so which needs some reference to apply the changing parameter. So you can have multiple exporting parameters, but your method having only one returning parameter. This is the basic understanding of the parameters in the method. Go back. So now, so I want to write the simple logic. So if you double click on this, the implementation part is opened where we can write our logic. Okay, this is the implementation part. Now I will write the simple query select VBLN ERDAT ERNA. So in the inline declarations, you have to separate a field by field by using comma. In the old syntax, you have to separate field by field with the space. This is the difference between writing select queries in the new syntax and the old syntax. From LIKP into table, whenever you are assigning to internal table, you have to mention at the rate data. At the rate will called as a host variable. So just write an internal table. There is no need to declare internal table. You can directly assign. That is the main benefit of the new syntax. There is no need to declare structure for that. Okay, up to 10 rows. So just write a simple display. So I will use the CL demo output class. I have this code in the uh, code template. So that's the reason I will, whenever I will enter the shortcut, the code will be automatically coming. So go back and activate your class and execute. So if you click on this method, it will give the details. It will give the data. This is the data. This is the simple class media which you can have. So now we will create an abstract class and we have to redefine this abstract class. So firstly, we have to know what is abstract class and what are the main important points here. So abstract class. Abstract class is a class where we can have one method, at least one method should be abstract. If you have a class, so at least one method should be abstract, then only we call this particular class is an abstract class. Without having at least one method as abstract, we cannot tell this class is an abstract class. At least, okay? At least one method should be an abstract. This is the first point. The second point is abstract class have only definition and no implementation. Okay, and this is the second point. So means you can only define what is your method name and what are all the parameters, what are the importing parameter, what are the exporting parameter. You can only do the defining part, definition part. You cannot implement that. If you implement that, that is not an abstract class. So where we can implement this abstract class, we are going to create a subclass and we have to enter those abstract class and we have to redefine and write the logic in the subclass. So we cannot, third point is we cannot access private methods in the abstract class. When we redefine it, you cannot have an access. I will show you in the practical, no issues. So let me taking you to the Z ABS. ABS means abstract. Just click on create, click on class and enter. So abstract class, give the description. If the class is final, you cannot create subclasses. I want to create subclasses from the abstract class where I can write the logic. So when you create a abstract class, you have to make your class as abstract. Then only it will treat as an abstract class. Okay. Click on save and assign any package and save in the TR transport request. Okay. Just declare, just give one method name and enter. So we can have the default visibility in the instance F4 public. So let me write the code.
Hello, Parsha. Before going to that, is there any particular difference between private class and protected class? Any particular difference is there?
Yeah. So in the private class, we cannot in the private methods we cannot access in the subclasses or the outside of the class. The protected class, I cannot use that protected class in the if I have an requirement of another class. You can use the
Okay,
subclass. You can use the private protected method in the subclasses. You cannot use the outside of the class protected method.
okay,
That is the difference. Abstract class does not having implementation. Now I can have an access of writing a code. So this should not be abstract class, right? At least one method should be abstract. So we have to make our abstract class at least one method should be abstract. How I can make at least one method should be abstract in my custom global class means just click on the method and we can have a detailed view. In some GUIs we have properties. Okay, click on this. And now you have to make your method as abstract. This is the checkbox, right? So when you click on this checkbox, implementation of method get data is deleted. When you click on this checkbox, that means you are deleting the implementation of your method. So you cannot write the logic. Okay. Click on OK and change it. Whenever I will double click on the method, see, I will receive a message. Method get data is abstract, so that I cannot have an access to write implementation or to write my customized logic. I cannot have. So, so let's say if I click on the code, also same. So method get data is abstract. So now we have to redefine this class in the subclass and write down the logic. Just and create another class. If you want to create the subclasses from this class, you can give the you cannot give the final class. Okay. If you want to create the subclasses from this subclass also, uh, just untick the final. If you don't want to create the subclasses from this subclass, you can give the final. So I cannot create this subclass from this whatever the subclass which I derived from the abstract class. Subclass from abstract class. Just save it and save in the package. And now, so in the abstract class, we are having only one single method. So how can I enter those abstract class in my subclasses? If you go to the properties, we have superclass. Okay, superclass is the main class. So if you enter those main class in the superclass, whatever the methods, whatever the parameters, where while we define in the abstract class, everything is available. So after entering in the superclass, you will come to know. Click on the superclass. Okay, just enter the abstract class which we created. Just press enter. Click on the methods. So just activate it. Edit. Okay, no issues. See, in the abstract class, we have a method that is get data. So we are not uh, writing this method in the subclass. Whatever the methods is available in the abstract class, when you enter in the superclass, whatever the properties are there, it will automatically coming into the subclass. Whether you are entering that is abstract class, whether you are creating interface, or whether you are creating a final class, you want to derive from those final class into the subclass. So whatever the properties or the parameters or the methods are available in the superclass, everything is available in when you create a subclass from uh, superclass. So if you double click on this, it is asking method is abstract has not been redefined. So that means you have to redefine your method. Then only we can write our customized logic. Okay, if you want to redefine your method and make our customized logic, how I can do means just click on the method. We have here this button redefine. Click on this button. Okay, so automatically the implementation part is opened. Just copy paste the code. Sorry, we can. This is about the abstract class, because in the odata services, every method we have to redefine and the write the logic. Without the concept of abstract class, it does not make sense to directly start with the OData part. So that's the reason I will take the basics of OOPS and abstract class, how the abstract class will act, and when we redefine how it will act. So then only you can have the clear cut idea. So of the abstract class, so that you can easily understand the OData part. If you click on execute, click on this method, you will have the data. Till everyone is understood, having any doubt in that?
Yeah, Harsha. One doubt. Are we are using the ABAP language only to create the OData services, right?
Yes. Same logic. Whatever
Hmm.
the logic we have written in the ABAP programming, same guidelines which you are following in the OData service. There is nothing new in that. Okay, the
But
concept,
mainly OOPS we will use.
yeah, oops will use.
Okay.
So if I directly take the whoever the does not having the knowledge of oops and the abstract class, it does not make sense. So that's the reason I will taking you to the basics of oops and the how the abstract class will act. Then only you can understand the OData part. So simply we need to redefine and this is the class. So it's not like that. So as I mentioned, uh, it is
So
yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I just have one question. So when we work on the OData thing, right? So
Yeah.
we do have like the DPC and everything. MPC and all, right?
Yes.
So when we create that, when we go for that articrafts and all, then like predefined things come up, right?
Yes.
So those also the abstract methods you're saying?
Yes. Those are the abstract classes.
Okay, okay, yeah,
So
thank you.
normally we will write the code in the dpc underscore ext. Okay, those are the abstract methods. So that's the reason we are going to redefine it.
Okay, okay,
In order to directly starting with the word data, and I'm giving an example how the abstract class and how we can redefine. When we redefine how the properties will be, how we will write the code in the subclass. When we
uh,
come to the basic project, I will teach you each and every parameter. No issues.
okay, yeah, Harshad, like, uh, so do we have any specific reason for that? Like, why do we only use the abstract? If sorry, if this was discussed earlier, I joined late. So
Why?
why do we only use the abstract classes on the OData side? Do we have any specific reason for that?
No, when you generate a basic word, when you generate your service, it is automatically this is SAP is following.
Okay, okay,
This is not our customized ones. Okay,
okay,
when you generate your service, it is generating four different classes. Those are the abstract class, which we are not creating those classes, which SAP is following.
okay. It is a SAP rule, SAP standard rule.
That is a SAP rule. We are not going to create the custom abstract class in the auditor service. That is the
Okay,
SAP rule.
okay, okay.
That is
Got it.
given by the SAP.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Basically, it is for reuse.
Yes. So by this topic, you can have the knowledge on inheritance also. Inheritance also same to same concept, but inheritance we can write the logic and we can call the calling method is same. Whatever I show you in the super class, that is also same. Inheritance cover, abstract class also will cover in one single topic. So as I mentioned in the previous, so when we it is a bridge between the front end and the back end. So I will show you in the practical part also. Okay, we are generating one word data service and bind it to the front end part. I will show you the front end part and how we can bind the data from the back end to the front end. And when we bind the data, how the URL will act. Everything I will show you the practical. Instead of saying the theoretical manner, this should be recommended, which we have to learn because whenever you learn the practical parts, you can understand the things very much easier. So rather than practical things. Sorry, theoretical. So we can create our OData services in the SEGW transaction code. Note down this transaction code, which if you are not aware, so we can create our OData services in SEGW. Okay, we are executing our OData services in following T code, that is slash gwfnd slash main underscore service. This is the transaction code which we are executing our OData service. So this is the place where we can build our OData services. So if you click on this create button, it will open a new project for me. Okay, just give any description, sorry, any project name, ZHR demo, odata services for vendor. Okay, so assign some package, click on continue. So when you create a OData services, we have four layers. One is data model, and under data model we have entity type and sets. So everything I will discuss, and the service implementation, runtime artifacts, service maintenance. So under the data model, so which we have entity types, association, and the entity set. What is an entity type? Let me discuss with you. So entity type is a structure. What is a structure? Structure is a combining of several fields together called as a structure. So entity type is a structure. So to define entity type, we have two different ways. You can create a structure here manually. You can create a structure in the SE11. You can import those structure also. That is completely your wish. Okay, the entity type. So this entity set is an internal table. Okay, where I can get the all the records from the database. So entity set is a based upon entity type. How we are going to create an internal table in the ABAP programming means data internal table name type table of with respect to structure we are creating an internal table. Similarly, it is going to create an entity set based upon the entity type. That means based upon the structure which we import from the database, it is act like as a internal table. This is the connection how entity type and entity set with the ABAP programming. So if you click on this data model, right click, and we have import. So firstly we have to uh, import the structure from the DDIC. Okay, if you want to create the manual structure also, that's your wish. Click on this.
Harsha,
Yes.
actually, I have a doubt. So, depending upon what we create entity types, like is it the requirement that someone will give? This is how the front end screen looks like, and depending upon that front end screen, are we going to design like are we going to create our entity types or depending upon what we create the entity type?
They, if you talk about the front end perspective, they will give the what are all the fields you have to bind the from the OData. So those fields you have to create the entity type.
Okay.
Okay, whatever what are all the fields they have given to you, you have to create a structure or you have to create an entity type for those fields, and you have to generate the OData service for those fields, and you have to bind to the front end part.
Okay, okay. So simply depending upon the fields present in the
Yeah.
front end. Oh, thank you.
No issue. ENT. Just you can give the any name. It should not compulsory to start with uh, Z. So in the ABAP structure, you can create a ABAP structure separately also. You can give the database table name also. So after that, it is allowing to select uh, what are all the fields you want to create the structure. So let's say LFA1. This is the database table name. So if you click on this, create default entity set. So entity set will create automatically. If you untick this, you have to create manually. So instead of doing manual things, we have to create automatically. Click on next. So it is asking to select the fields. What are all the fields you need to create a structure? Just select the fields which you require. So I'm selecting LIFNR, land1, name1, ORT1. Just select fields, click on next. So like how the table having the primary key to maintain the uniqueness of the table, similarly we have a key to maintain the uniqueness of the service. Just select the key field. Click on finish. Okay. So it is going to import our structure into the entity type. So how I can see means if you click on this entity type extension, we have this is the entity type which you are giving. So if you click on this extension, which we have properties. In the properties, whatever the fields we are importing from the database, every field is visible here. So, and next we'll come to the entity set. Entity set is automatically creating. Okay, this is the entity set. If you know the entity type also, it's very easy to find entity set because SCT is added to the entity set. The entity type is same, the entity type name is same, SCT is added for the entity set. So the service implementation, next will come to this service implementation. So if you come to the implementation of the service, we have two different ways. One is writing the our customized logic that come under the runtime artifacts. So this is the one way. Second way is you have to map the database fields. According to that, it is going to generate a service for me. That is service implementation. So this service implementation, when we discuss, we have a project for BAPI. So at the time, I will map the fields and I will show in the practical. So as of now, so we will write our customized code in the runtime artifacts. So just like how we are having activate in the ABAP programming, then only the changes will replicate into output. Similarly, we have generate runtime objects. So see here, there is no runtime artifacts as of now. There is no extension. There nothing in the runtime artifacts. Whenever I'm going to click on this generate runtime objects, SAP is generating 4 different abstract classes. So if I click on this, enter. So it is going to provide this is the MPC class. So this is the name. If you want to change the name, because this with this name only, it is going to create standard classes. So if you want to change the name, you can change the name also. So remember this technical service name. Okay, through this name only we are going to execute. So normally without this name also we have 2 different ways to execute. I will show you 2 different ways also. Click on enter and save it. So everything is implemented. If you click on this extension in the runtime artifacts, we can have dpc underscore ext. Before generating the runtime artifacts, these classes cannot generate. So whenever you are going to generate a service, it is going to create standard classes for us. These standard classes are the abstract classes. So normally we will write the logic in the dpc underscore ext. Why we will write the logic in the dpc underscore ext? Why we should not write the logic in the dpc? Because when you write the some code in the dpc and again if you want to replicate your changes in the payload and we are regenerating. Whenever you are going to regenerate it, whatever the code you are writing in the DPC, it is going to vanish. It is going to remove. That is no use. So that's the reason we are writing our code in the DPC underscore ext. So MPC so is the class. So when we discuss the what we can call a deep entity, so in that case we have to create a multiple structures. So we are creating the structure from the MPC and getting those final structure into the uh, what we can call in the DPC underscore ext. So just click on this DPC underscore ext, right click on go to workbench. So it is going to generate. So these are the standard methods. There is no use of this. Click on the methods. Click on the inherited methods. Okay. So inherited means you are inherited the methods of an abstract class. Okay. So these are the methods. So the create entity, delete entity, get entity set, update entity. Okay. Click on this get entity set and right click, redefine the method. Then only we can write our logic. So firstly, entity set acts like an internal table. If you want to get the entire data from the database by writing select queries, you can use this get entity set. Okay, just write a simple query. Select LIFNR land 1, name 1, what is 01 from LFA1 into corresponding fields of table ET entity set. Because why we are moving to the ET entity set? If you click on the signature, whatever the parameters are available in the get entity set method is available in the signature. Okay, if you click on the signature, it is going to hide. If you want to see what are all the parameters are available in this particular method, so just click on the signature. If you see the entity set, okay, this is the entity set, et underscore entity set, right? If you click on this associate type, you can understand. So it's not just simply we are moving. See, TT. What is TT? TT means table type. If you double click on this direct entry code, see, this is the table type. Table type means what? The table type is an internal table where we can get the multiple records from the database. It is directly referring to the internal table. So that's the reason we are moving to the entity set. Otherwise, you can declare an internal table and move here, and you can apply a move command to move the that temporary internal table to the entity set. You can do that way also. There is no issues. Just activate it and go back. And we have service
That
maintain.
that code you have shown is automatically generated by the abstract class, right?
Yes. Whenever we are going to redefine, the standard code will be there. Just delete that code and we can write our customized code. So in order to execute our service, we have to register our service. So it's not compulsory to have to execute your service in our GUI, our system also. You can execute this service in the uh, some systems. So in this part of our demo session, we will register our service in this particular system. So right click on this local, you will have to register your service. Click on yes. So if you want to execute in this GUI, you have to give the local. Local means you are executing your service in this particular GUI. Just assign any package. Okay, now we have to execute our OData service. Right click on this. Directly you can have a gateway client. Click on this. So it is going to navigate to the transaction code is slash gwfnd slash main underscore service. This is the transaction code where we can execute our OData service. So this is the request part and this is the response where we can get our data. So when we write the queries, we are moving those data into the entity set. Firstly, we have to select entity set, then only it will retrieve the data. If you click on this entity set, click on entity set. So enter. So whatever the data is available in the entity set, everything is retrieved into the response. Okay. Get means you are getting the data from the database. In at that time, you have to use the method as get. So post means when you want to create entries into the database table, you have to use post. If you want to update any entire row, you have to use put. If you want to update one particular field, you have to use the patch. So if you want to delete any particular record, you have to use the method as delete method. So when we discuss the CRUD operations, we will discuss each and every parameter, every method, how it will act. If you click on execute, so when you perform a get method, status code is 200. So the status codes also important. So the status code 200 means so your response is successful. So successfully you are retrieving the data. Status reason is okay. Okay. So if you have any problem in your service, you will get the other status code. So that thing also I will show you. So what are the fields we are importing the. So just go down. Go down. We are importing the LIFNR, land one, name one, ORT one. Those fields are available in this entity type. Okay, you have add URI options. So we can test with the different URI options. If you click on this add URI options, let's say I want to find how many number of records are there in the payload. In the response, just click on the count. Okay. So it will give you how many number of records are there in the C. The total records is 5923. So this many records. So that's the reason it will take the some time to process those records. So different URI
What
app.
is payload?
Pardon?
What is payload?
Yeah. Yeah, payload means where we can get the data into the response. In the response header, where we can get the data, we can also call it as payloads.
Okay.
So, in the OData services, session breakpoint is not trigger. Why? So, I will show you with an example so that you can have a clear cut idea. I will set a session breakpoint. I will set external breakpoint. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between session breakpoint and external breakpoint?
Session breakpoint is up to the program only. External program means if we are using this to the front end application and in order to work it, we need it external breakpoint in our data.
Okay. So let me put a session breakpoint. Go back and we are making some changes. Every time you make the changes, just regenerate it. Generate runtime objects. Whatever the change we are making, it will reflect in the output. Generate it. Go to the service part. So just remove this thing. Click on execute. Directly it will fetch an output. So the debugger is not trigger. Why? Because we are we are creating our service in the SEGW transaction code. We are calling those OData service and executing our OData service in the another transaction code, that is gwfnd slash main underscore service. This is the differentiation, and then executing part is differentiation. A session breakpoint is only applicable to only in that particular session. So these are the two different sessions. How the session breakpoint is in that time you have to go with the external breakpoint. Just double click on dpc underscore ext methods redefinition. Just delete this and put external breakpoint. And again execute from the OData service. It is going to trigger a debugger for me. So this is the debugger entity set. If you click on F5, it is going to give me number of records are there in the OData services. Just click on execute. This is about the debugger. So let's say if I want to see the particular record. So let's say if you want to see the particular record, you have to give the within brackets what is the record you want to see in the within the quotes. Let's say I want to see the first record. Okay, you can have the LIFNR with the 1. So that's the reason I'm giving. Click on execute. It is going to give me an error. See, the method get entity is not implemented in the class. So if you want to get the single record, you have to implement get entity. So now we have to redefine and we have to implement get entity. So we have inherited methods. We have get entity. Just right click and redefine. Redefine and write the code. Click on this signature we have something called as, firstly, we are getting a single record. If you want to get a single record, firstly, we have to perform a read table and get the single record, because read table will help you to get the single record. So in order to perform a read table, in when we see in the ABAP programming, we have with key with index. So in with index with key, we are reading an internal table. Similarly, we have in the OData services, we have to read our internal table, that is name and the value. If you click on this IT key tab, okay, yes, click on yes. So click on this associate type, click on this structure. So these are the two parameters are available. So if you want to read, if you want to perform a read operation, you have to use this parameter. So what is the parameter you have to read? The every parameter having a property. In the entity type, we have property. You have to read the property name. So whatever the value it is containing the that property, you have to assign those value. So at that time, if you want to assign those value into the those property, you have to use the value field. So let me just copy this thing. So firstly, I will show you in the old syntax. Everybody is comfortable with the inline, or I will go with the new and old both. Just declare a work area, ls key type, okay, and perform read table. Read table, whatever the internal table we have, what is the internal table we are reading at IT key tab, okay, into what is the work area ls key with key. We are reading with the name. So whatever the properties we are having, you have to take those name only. If you take other than those property name, it is not going to consider. So this is the naming convention. Most of the case, the first letter will be the first letter in the property name should be capital. Remaining things will be small. I will show in the entity type also, no issues. Just check the condition. If size sub rc equal to 0 and fetch the single record. Select single lifnr land 1 name 1 what is 01 into corresponding fields of ER entity. Why we have to move the ER entity? So if you click on this signature, we have one parameter that is ER entity. If you double click on this, it is calling a structure. So if you double click on this associate type, so we have TS. TS means it's a structure. If you go to the source code, so it is calling the one structure. See, this is the structure TS ENT So structure is a work area. So that's the reason it is hold only single record. So that's the reason we are moving to the single record to the ER entity. Because this field, when we pass the single field, so it should be dynamic. When you see in the debugging mode, it whatever the values we are passing from the execution of the OData service, everything will be there in the IT key tab. Let me show you in the debugging mode. Go back, and in the same node, I will show you the entity type properties also. See, these are the first letter should be capital. Whatever the properties we have imported from the data dictionary, we are reading those field name only. So again regenerate. Right click on local, execute gateway client. Just select entity set. Through the entity set only, we can get the all the data from the database. Just execute, we will get the data. So we are putting the breakpoint on one breakpoint on get entity set, one breakpoint on get entity. See, so we are not passing any single value in the URL. Okay, so that's the reason it is going to trigger a get entity set. When you pass single value, directly the breakpoint will trigger from the get entity, because if you want to get the single record, we have to implement the code for the get entity. So just execute it. So let's say I want to get the single record. This is the record. Execute. Okay. If you click on this IT key tab, double click on this IT key tab. So we are reading with the LIFNR, right? When you perform read table, this is the field which we are reading. So what is the record which we are passing in the URL? So we are passing the record number is 1. So whatever you pass from the URL, it is going to trigger, it is going to capture those values in the IT key tab. Click on this desktop 3. So just press F5. Just enter ER entity. ER underscore entity. Okay, ER entity is a structure. So this is the value which we are getting. So land 1 and the name 1. And this is the ORT 1. If you click on execute, so those values are there. Okay. LIFNR, land 1, name 1, ORT 1. Same thing, how we will perform a read table in the inline declarations also we'll see. The problem with the inline declaration, especially when we perform a read table, is when you read any record in the internal table, if the record is not there in the internal table, directly it throws a dump. In the old syntax, even though whatever the record we are reading, if it is not contained, it is not going to dump. So in the inline declarations, if record does not having in the table, it is going to directly throw a dump. So how we are going to see? It does not in inline declaration. It does not having any impact on size of bars. Even though you will write the else condition also, it does not check. Just it is there in the internal table or not. It does if it not contain, directly throws a dump. So how we are going to declare a work area by using data. So data within brackets you have to declare your work area. My work area is ls key. Okay, you have to give the value. So value keyword will act as a two different things. One is filling the dummy data and reading an internal table. Both will act. For the value operator, you have to give the hash. It will associate, it will have Understand the associate type of LS key. What is the associate type of LS key? The internal table which we are reading. So within the brackets, you have to give which internal table we are reading. What is our internal table which we are reading? IT key tab, right? So in the new syntax, there is no need to give with key, just you can give the property name. If you want to read with the index, directly you can give the index. Okay, if you want to read with the key, just mention that key name equal to LIFNR. Okay, and we have to give the optional, because why we have to give the optional? If the record is not containing in this particular internal table, so directly it throws a dump. In order to maintain dumps, we have to give the optional. If you use this one, so you will not receive any dumps if the record is not reading. Just close it. That's it. Execute from the service. Now in the ls key we have, it is a structure. So whatever the values we are passing from the service, sorry, in the executing part, it is going to trigger whenever you will press F5 and get the data and F8. So you will get those records in the entity set, sorry, entity get entity method. So these are the things which this is the basic project, and now we have to bind this one to the front end part. How we are going to bind? Because it, when we say it acts as a bridge between the front end and back end. Instead of saying theoretical, I will show you the practical part also. So just ZHR demo is the my project name. So this is the application where we are building our front-end part. That is the BAS tool. That is Business Application Studio, where we can build our layouts and the front-end application part. So click on File, click on New Project from Template. So as of now, just select the Fury elements, Fury generator. Just click on Start. Click on a basic one and next. So it is going to select a data source from me. So we can have a data source having different options. So if you bind the data from the JSON file, there is no need to bind the data from the backend. Okay, if you want to bind the data from the OData services, you have to use the OData service connect to a system. Okay, connect to your system. It is make sure that your OData service or this SAP BTP tool, Business Application Studio, make sure that that has to connected with the EC5, whatever the server you are using, whether it will be the HANA or EC5. Click on this. This is the system which I have followed. Click on this service. We have we have to enter our technical service name. Through the service name, it is going to bind the data from the OData service. Okay, what is our OData service name? ZHR demo, right? So this is the demo. This is the our service name. Click on this. And now we have to press next. What are all the entity type in the OData services? What are all the properties? What is the entity set? And everything, whatever the data, whatever we are importing the structure, entity type, properties, everything is replicated in the front end part. Click on next. Next. Give any description for your project. Click on finish. So this is the project name, right? So in this web app, we have a local service. In the local service, we have metadata. See, we are importing in the OData service in the four fields, right? LIFNR, name one, ORT1. What is the associate type of this? This is the associate type of LIFNR. So what is the length it occupies? So what is our technical service name? Okay, what is our technical service name? So what is our entity set? Okay, what is our entity type? Everything what you did in the OData services, when you bind that OData services into the front end part, so everything is replicated into the front end application. Now you have to perform based on your dependencies, your requirements. You have to customize your layout. So this is the OData demo, my dear. So if you are interested, so from next week we will continue from this. So if you are interested, you can share me personally. So if you have any doubt, you can ask now. Otherwise, we can leave. If you are interested, from next Saturday, same timing, 9 to 11, we should have the classes from 2 hours. So every weekend, only weekends, the classes will be there along with my ebook and the recordings will be provided to you. So if you are interested, you can continue. Otherwise, you can just ignore simply. That's it. Thank you. Thanks for joining.